When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle first made the decision to step away from senior royal duties, the world was told it was about freedom, balance, and building a new life on their own terms. But behind palace walls, it was a moment that shook the monarchy to its core and forced the late Queen Elizabeth II to draw one of the firmest lines of her reign. In early January 2020, after returning from a 6-week break in Canada, Harry and Meghan appeared calm in public, but privately they were already pushing a plan that had never truly existed in modern royal history: a half-in, half-out arrangement that would allow them to keep their HRH status, continue royal branding, and earn their own money in the United States. On January 8th, the couple stunned the world by announcing their intentions on the Sussexes royal Instagram account, a move that even senior royals reportedly hadn't fully approved in advance, immediately triggering what insiders described as one of the most tense crises the royal family had faced since the death of Princess Diana. 5 days later, the Queen summoned Prince Charles, Prince William, and Prince Harry to Sandringham for what would become known globally as the Sandringham Summit, a 90-minute meeting that would quietly decide the Sussexes' future forever. Harry reportedly entered that room hopeful, believing that his close bond with his grandmother might soften the outcome. But the Queen was already clear in her thinking. There would be no halfway roll, no blurred lines between duty and profit, and no version of royal life that could be monetized from across the Atlantic. When Buckingham Palace released its statement on January 19th, the message was unmistakable. Harry and Meghan would lose the right to use their HRH titles in any working or commercial capacity. They would step away from military patronages, and the royal brand they had hoped to build would be dismantled before it ever truly began. While the couple insisted in their response that service is universal and emphasized their commitment to charitable work regardless of official status, the reality was brutal. Meghan's Duchess of Sussex title would become purely symbolic. Harry's military identity would be stripped away, and the doors that once opened automatically would now require negotiation like any other private citizen. The Queen's decision was not driven by anger but by principle, shaped by lessons learned decades earlier when Princess Diana was stripped of her HRH title following her divorce, a move that had sparked enormous public backlash and haunted the monarchy for years. This time, the Queen allowed Harry and Meghan to retain their titles in name only, but barred them from using them, ensuring the crown would not be commercially leveraged in the future. To Harry, this moment was described by royal authors as a hard lesson, one that forced him to concede far more ground than he ever expected in exchange for the freedom he believed he needed. The Sussexes agreed to repay £2.4 million of taxpayer money used to renovate Frogmore Cottage, gave up access to the sovereign grant, and accepted that their royal exit would come with real and lasting consequences. Yet despite the firmness of the decision, the Queen's statement carried an unmistakable tone of personal sadness, a rare glimpse of emotion from a monarch who understood both her duty and her role as a grandmother, making it clear that while Harry and Meghan were leaving royal life, they were not leaving her heart, a contradiction that would define the years that followed. In the weeks and months that followed the Sandringham Summit, the full weight of the Queen's decision began to sink in for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, as the reality of life without royal privilege proved far more complex than the freedom they had envisioned. And insiders suggest the loss of identity hit Harry particularly hard. Stripped of his military titles, patronages, and any formal role within the institution he had been born into, Harry was forced to confront a painful truth. Stepping away from royal duty meant stepping away from the structure, protection, and purpose that had shaped his entire life. Royal author Robert Jobson later described the moment as a defining lesson, explaining that Harry had underestimated the personal cost of his departure and overestimated the flexibility the monarchy could offer, especially when tradition and constitutional integrity were at stake. Meghan, meanwhile, was left holding a duchess title that now carried symbolic weight only, with no official authority or constitutional importance, a reality that quietly underscored the Queen's resolve to prevent the Sussex brand from blurring the line between service and celebrity. Adding to the sting, Buckingham Palace soon ruled that Harry and Meghan would no longer be permitted to use Sussex Royal as a commercial brand, effectively shutting down plans to market merchandise and ventures under a royal banner in the United States, a move widely interpreted as the final nail in the coffin for the half-in, half-out model. Despite public statements emphasizing gratitude, service, and goodwill, royal experts believe the decision left Harry deeply conflicted, torn between loyalty to his wife and grief over what he had lost, particularly his sense of belonging within the family. Yet even as tensions escalated and relationships fractured, Queen Elizabeth II's affection for her grandson never wavered, with royal biographers later revealing that she remained one of the few remaining bridges between Windsor and California, quietly hoping for reconciliation. Her deeply personal January 19th statement, described by veteran royal correspondent Richard Kay as the most emotional royal bulletin since Princess Diana's death, reflected a monarch who understood the necessity of firmness but carried the sadness of a grandmother watching her family change forever. According to royal author Robert Hardman, the Queen adored Harry right to the end, and despite the public fallout, Harry adored her just as deeply, a bond that endured beyond titles, protocols, and palace walls. In the end, Megxit was not simply a royal exit, but a cautionary tale of ambition, independence, and consequence, proving that while freedom can be claimed, it often comes at a cost far higher than anyone expects, especially when the crown, legacy, and personal identity are intertwined in ways that can never be fully undone.